In this brief video, I'm going to provide an introduction to the behavioral risk factor surveillance system data, specifically the website and the data that is available. I really love behavioral risk factor surveillance system, or BRFSS data, because it's secondary data, so you don't have to collect it. It's a national sample representative of all 50 states, and it's one of the big tools that we use in public health in terms of surveillance of all kinds of different diseases. Because the data is publicly available and it's de-identified, you also don't have to go through a whole IRB process. You can actually just take the data and conduct studies and research it, which is really great. I've provided some resources on Canvas to give you kind of an introduction to the actual BRFSS data, but essentially BRFSS uses a telephone-based system for contacting residents within the states. The actual BRFSS survey is administered at the state level in coordination with health departments. So that data is collected at the state level, and then it is essentially coordinated and funneled up to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and then the CDC actually makes this data available on their website. One of the things that's really interesting about BRFSS data is that it's survey data. So one of the things that it does is it uses survey weights. So what this means is that typically when you collect data for a research study, each person is worth like one person in that research study. So if I have, let's say, 10 people, each person is going to count as one person. Now, when you're doing survey research, like BRFSS data collection, you understand that non-response is typically a challenge in these kinds of studies. So one of the statistical approaches that is used is called survey weighting, where you weight survey data. You might have heard this before, and you might encounter this when you're looking at BRFSS data. So I want to make sure you at a high level kind of understand what this means. What this means is that everyone isn't counted equally in that survey data. So let's say that you have a population that that you're trying to sample. You can't sample everyone in that population. So instead, you're going to use this telephone-based approach where you try and take a sample of that population. And essentially, you weight individuals. They're assigned different weights to make sure that that sample is representative of that target population sample. So people in your sample that you get for BRFSS data, people who are from underrepresented groups, those people might get weighted more heavily in terms of their counting towards the survey data compared to people who are maybe overrepresented. So there's a weighting factor that's used, but basically what it means is that we try to allocate a weight to each individual person to make sure that the demographics of that sample kind of match the demographics of that target population. So this is the BRFSS website, and I want to kind of take you through it so you know how to navigate it. You don't have to memorize every single thing in here, but it's a really great source of data and it's publicly available. So as you go through your careers, you might need to work with BRFSS data, or if you want to know something about, for example, what is the current prevalence of tobacco use or smoking in my state? This is going to be the data source that you go to where you can actually look and see what that is. So the first thing is about BRFSS. I've included this in the Canvas page for you to briefly take a look at. There's also this tool thing that's kind of cool. So you can look at like prevalence data and look at data that is already compiled for you at different kind of levels. You can look at the state level. What is the current prevalence of tobacco use in my state? There's all these really neat tools that you can use. Now, if you're a researcher and you're actually interested in working with data from the BRFSS, that individual person level data, you would want to go to this survey data and documentation. If you're looking for an actual questionnaire that was administered in a given year, you would go to this BRFSS questionnaires page, and it has the questionnaires listed out by year. So you'll see this is broken down by English and Spanish, but you can click here, and I can click this link here, and it will open up the 2021 BRFSS questionnaire. So if you're interested to see what questions were asked in a given year, you can open that up. It breaks it down by the different sections. So as you learn about in the reading, there's different sections of the BRFSS. There's kind of this core section that essentially gets asked by all states. And there's also this kind of optional modules that also exist as well. So this is a really long document. You don't have to read through the entire thing, but you can get an idea of what are the different questions that are asked. So you can scroll through that on a given year if that's something that you're interested in. Now, if you're interested in doing research with BRFSS data, you would want to go to the survey data and documentation to actually be able to download that data. So you can go on here and then click the annual survey data to get information and the actual data on a given survey year. So let's say that I'm interested in 2021. So I'll click on this 2021 annual survey data. Once you click that, it will give you some information in these different links here. The BRFSS codebook is essentially the data dictionary. So if you've taken Health 318 with me, you'll probably remember creating a data dictionary. This is basically the data dictionary for BRFSS data. So if you click this, it will tell you the different variables in this 2021 data set. So the first one is the state variable. So this is essentially the state in which the data is from. So you can see I've got all the different states here, and there's a value for each one. So in the actual data file that I download, if I look at this state variable, this is the name of the variable in the data file. If I look at this state variable, it's not going to have the states listed out or spelled out. So it's not going to say Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas. It's going to have a bunch of numbers. And so I would need to use this code book if I was looking at that data to then understand, okay, a 1 means Alabama, 2 means Alaska, 4 means Arizona, and so on. So this code book is really important when you're analyzing the data, because that data file you actually download is just going to contain numbers in the actual data values. You need to know what those numbers mean, so you kind of have to cross-reference back to this code book. It's also helpful because it tells you the frequency. So it has like the count here of how many people were in each of these individual states. So there's a lot of other links here that are really important if you're working with BRFSS data. I don't want to get caught up in the weeds in this video, but I do want to point out that this is the actual file that I would download to then analyze that data. So if you click this link here, it'll start downloading a file, and then you can import that into your statistical software, whether you're using SAS, SPSS, or Stata. I use Stata, so this is why I would download this particular data file, and then I can upload that data into my statistical software, and then I can use this this code book to refer back to understand what the data actually mean in that file. So all of those different pages with the code book, the actual data, you have to go through year by year. These are collected on a yearly basis. So if you want 2021 data, you have to go to 2021. You would go here for 2020, 2019, 2018, and you can combine multiple years, which is what we're doing. So you have to actually go in and combine individual data files. For our research study, I've already combined the data files 2015, 16, 17, and 18 for studying our research question. So feel free to take a look around the BRFSS website. It's a really great publicly available data source, as I mentioned. So I hope by the end of this quarter, before you leave Cal Poly, you'll kind of understand what exactly BRFSS data is, and also understand that it's data that you can always access and analyze if you're ever interested in finding out public health related information on a given health topic, or if you want to conduct your own research. This is a great place to start and a great place to find publicly available data.